The rain was coming down hard that night, cold, relentless, and unkind. Jaden only wanted to get his little girl home safe. But fate had other plans. A figure appeared in the headlights, bloodied, terrified, begging for help. Within minutes, Jaden's simple act of compassion would drag him into a world of power, deceit, and danger. Because the woman he saved wasn't just a stranger, she was someone powerful, someone the system would protect at any cost. What happens when a black father's humanity collides with the privilege of the rich? This is his story. Jaden Rivers lived a quiet life in the south side of Atlanta. A life built on hard work, sacrifice, and love for his 7-year-old daughter, Amara. Each morning began before sunrise. He packed her lunch, braided her hair the way her mother used to, and walked her to the bus stop with a smile that hid the weight of his exhaustion. By day, he fixed broken electrical systems in downtown apartments. By night, he cooked dinner in a cramped kitchen, humming old soul songs to keep the silence from feeling too heavy. People in his neighborhood respected him, the kind of man who never complained, never asked for help, even when he needed it most. He had weathered layoffs, lost his wife in an accident 3 years ago, and still kept his head high. To the world, Jaden was just another working-class black father doing his best to stay afloat. But beneath that calm exterior was a quiet determination, a promise to his daughter that she'd never feel unsafe, no matter how rough things got. That night, the rain started earlier than usual. The city streets shimmered with reflections of neon signs and flashing taillights. Jaden was on his way home from a double shift, his body aching, his mind fixed on getting Amara to bed before midnight. But as the thunder rolled and the wipers squeaked against the windshield, something up ahead caught his eye. A shadow stumbling in the road, collapsing under the streetlight. He almost thought he imagined it, until his headlights revealed the truth. Dirty woman, injured, alone. Her white clothes streaked with blood and rain. Jaden slammed the brakes. His instinct screamed to help, but he had no idea that stopping his truck that night would unravel everything he thought he knew about safety, privilege, and justice in America. The moment Jaden stepped out of his truck, the storm swallowed him whole. Rain poured like punishment, soaking through his flannel shirt as thunder cracked above. The woman lay motionless on the asphalt, trembling, her face pale beneath tangled blonde hair. For a second, he hesitated, years of experience warning him that a black man crouching beside an injured white woman could be misread in 100 terrible ways. But humanity overrode fear. He scooped her into his arms and carried her into the truck, wrapping her in his worn jacket. Her breath came in gasps, her voice shaking. "Don't let them find me." That single line cut through the storm like lightning. Minutes later, headlights appeared in his rearview mirror, a sleek black SUV closing fast. The car slowed beside him, tinted windows rolling down just enough for a man's cold voice to echo through the rain. "Step away from her." 3 men in suits emerged, their polished shoes splashing through puddles. The leader's expression was sharp, calculated, the kind of confidence that came from money and power. Jaden's heart pounded. "She's hurt." "She needs a hospital," the man smirked. "That's my fiancé. We'll handle it." But the woman in the passenger seat shook her head weakly, eyes wide with terror. Jaden saw the bruises, the fear, the silent plea for help. In that instant, something primal woke inside him. The protector, the father, the soldier he once was. The men moved closer, their tone turning cold, rehearsed, the language of people who were used to being obeyed. "You don't understand. Walk away, and no one gets hurt." But Jaden didn't move. He'd seen that look before, the one rich men gave when they believed they owned everything, even people. When one of the suits reached for the truck door, Jaden acted on instinct. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted hard, and shoved him backward into the mud. The second man lunged. A blur of fists, rain, and adrenaline followed. Years of Marine training kicked in. Precise, controlled, unstoppable. Within moments, both men were on the ground. The leader's expression shifted from superiority to shock. "You just made a mistake," he hissed, pointing at Jaden's truck where little Amara watched from inside, her small face pressed against the window. "You think you can protect her from what's coming?" That sentence froze Jaden's blood. It wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. When the SUV finally sped off into the night, Jaden stood drenched and shaking. Not from fear, but from the weight of what he'd just done. The woman's name, he soon learned, was Victoria Sterling, CEO of one of Atlanta's most powerful tech companies. But tonight, she was no executive, no symbol of privilege. She was a survivor, running from something dark, something connected to wealth and corruption. As he carried her into his small apartment hours later, a sense of dread crept in. He'd done the right thing. But in a world that often punished men who looked like him for doing right, he couldn't help but wonder, would helping her save his soul, or destroy everything he had left? By morning, the truth was no longer a secret. Victoria's disappearance had made headlines, and her powerful fiancé, Marcus Chen, was painting a picture that turned Jaden into a villain. News outlets called him a dangerous ex-Marine who abducted a CEO. Social media was flooded with his photo. His dark skin, his tired eyes, his face twisted by the lies of those who owned the narrative. Jaden's phone buzzed nonstop. Calls from work, neighbors, even the police demanding he come in for questioning. He'd done nothing wrong, but he knew how quickly innocent could turn into suspect for men like him. The weight of America's unspoken rules pressed down on him, the kind that said his word meant less, his life was worth less. When the pounding on his apartment door began, Amara jumped. Outside, flashing lights painted the hallway blue and red. Officers shouted his name, demanding he open up. Jaden's heart raced, every instinct screaming to protect his daughter. Inside the small living room, Victoria stood trembling, clutching the USB drive that held proof of Marcus's corruption. It was the key to everything, but getting it out meant facing the system head-on. "Jaden Rivers, open the door." The command came again, louder this time, angrier. He could see the shadow of guns drawn through the frosted glass. One wrong move, and this would end like too many stories before it, with a headline, a hashtag, and another child without a father. He held Amara close, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Then, before fear could paralyze him, he turned to Victoria. "It's time," he said. "They want the truth? Let's give it to them." He stepped forward, hands raised, eyes steady, ready to face a system that had already judged him guilty. But this time, he wouldn't bow. Not for power, not for privilege, not for fear. The door swung open, and in that breathless instant, the world decided what kind of man Jaden Rivers really was. When the door burst open, everything unfolded in seconds. Officers shouted commands, red dots of laser sights dancing across the walls. But before they could move in, Victoria stepped forward, raising her hands, her voice trembling yet steady. "He didn't kidnap me," she said. "He saved my life." The room fell silent. Cameras from the hallway caught every word, every trembling confession that followed. She exposed the truth. Marcus's embezzlement, his abuse, and the attempted cover-up that would have destroyed her and framed Jaden as the scapegoat. By the time the footage went public, the narrative flipped overnight. But for Jaden, vindication came at a price. He lost his job, his apartment, his peace of mind. For weeks, he faced whispers, stares, and the same quiet judgment that had followed black men for generations, people who could never see past a headline. Yet through it all, he stood firm, not as a victim, but as a father who refused to be broken by a system built to crush men like him. Months later, Victoria launched a foundation in his name, supporting single fathers and victims of racial injustice. Jaden didn't care about fame or apologies. He cared that his daughter finally understood what strength really looked like. In the end, his story wasn't about a man who helped a CEO. It was about a man who proved that doing what's right is worth the cost, even when the world calls you wrong. Because every time a black man stands up against the weight of injustice, he's not just fighting for himself. He's fighting for a future where his children might never have to. So the question remains, how many more Jadens will it take before justice stops needing heroes? Don't miss more powerful real-life stories. Hit subscribe now.